All right. I'm Russ
And I'm Megan, coming at you from Waterfront Botanical Gardens
and Twisted Nature Bonsai.
in Louisville, Kentucky, and you're listening to the Bonsai Time podcast.
Bonsai on.
Welcome to the Bonsai Time podcast, the tree hugger's #1 spot for history, horticulture, and having fun. In part 2 today, we explore the unique events hosted by the Waterfront Botanical Garden and their plans underway to create a public bonsai collection in Kentucky. Guests Megan Bibelhauser and Russell Stevens guide us through their latest developments on Bonsai Weekend and more. We hope to see you there May 30th to June 1st, 2025 in Louisville, Kentucky.
We just opened to the public a little over 5 years ago. So we are very young and very small. We are growing. We have about 5 acres we've developed right now. We have 23 total acreage that we will continue to develop over the years. But our next phase of development, which we just shut down a portion of our parking lot a few weeks ago for construction staging. So we're imminently, it is upon us imminently, is building our bonsai garden. And so that is a really big deal for us. And I will say that is an element of this bonsai show, is generating that enthusiasm and that excitement and really making our mark as an organization to say we want to be a premier location to come and experience bonsai. And so, yes, we have this event right now, and we will continue to have this event and will continue to grow, but it is also generating that enthusiasm for the construction of our bonsai garden, which we are just beyond thrilled for that to come to fruition.
And I saw you had a video released maybe recently showing a mock-up, like a
Yes,
graphical animation of what that garden's going to look like. Do they
yes.
have a expected date for when that's going to be ready?
So ideally, we're looking within the next 18 to 24 months. It could be sooner, it might be slower. It's very dependent on funding. So the total amount needed to accomplish this next phase of development, phase 2A of our full master plan, is 10.5 million. And we have 3.5 to go. So we're actually pretty close. We've raised 7, we have 3.5 to go. And the team is actively, I mean, they are working incredibly hard to generate that additional revenue. And in the meantime, work will begin. So being on a landfill, that is one element that is important to note, is we can't just start building on top of a landfill. We have to force settling and force compaction of the ground, because there's trash and there's air pockets and there's debris that hasn't fully compacted. So if we build something really large and heavy on top, there's a risk of settling and concern for the infrastructure. So what we have to do, and what is happening, our flood last week delayed us a little bit, but in short order, we should have construction crews up here, and they're essentially going to take a massive mound of dirt and place that strategically over the areas that will be developed. And that mound of dirt will sit there 3 to 6 months. It will sit there 6 months for us. The compaction, most of it will be completed within 3 months, but we leave it on another 6 months just to get just moderately more compaction. And then from there, we actually put pylons into the ground. So everything that is built above ground is essentially sitting on a table, and the table legs are all underground. So all of that will begin. And in the meantime, we'll continue to raise that remaining 3.5 million to see this through to the end. So 18 to 24 months, we are hoping to have our completed bonsai garden, as well as a few other elements.
So it sounds like oh, 1 second, Kevin. I was just going to say, it sounds like the fact that you're building on a landfill is like doubling the time for construction and maybe doubling your costs of construction too. Is that right?
At least.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. If we went and picked a different plot of land somewhere in the city that was not on top of a landfill, this project would be moving a lot faster, and certainly I would call it a discounted rate than what we are up against here. So it just takes us a little bit more time, and it definitely takes us more funding, but the passion and the dedication to seeing it through is, second to none.
What were you going to say, Kevin?
Well, I was going to ask, it's quite the feat of engineering. I've come from a construction background and things in that way. I'm like, wow, I can't even imagine the time have to be spent, and also trying to figure out the game plan of like a design for this approach to be having people walk through and seeing the trees. This is why, you have Russ on board and other people too, I'm sure. But as far as people possibly wanting to get involved, because I'm sure there's people that listen to us and other things that maybe want to donate. Is this an endowment, or is this a publicly funded, or can it be any public donations accepted? And how does that,
Yeah.
how's that?
All of the above.
Okay.
If someone wants to support the Waterfront Botanical Gardens, there are numerous ways you can do that directly via our website. You can give us a call. We will connect you directly with our development team. Everything from individual contributions, so someone walking in and giving us a check, to those that come and visit the gardens, and there's a suggested donation to visit, but it's completely optional and not monitored whatsoever. Someone gives a suggested donation, or the kiddos that are paying for a spring break camp. All of that revenue is going to not only supporting the operations of the organization to maintain what we have, but in helping us to continue to grow. We certainly are reliant on grant funding as well. We did receive significant funding from both the city and the state last year, which has really propelled us forward, and we are incredibly grateful for that funding. But those individual contributions and individual donors that simply are passionate about what we are doing, that is incredibly critical to raising these funds. There are, of course, naming opportunities. So, for example, in the new Bonsai Garden, we have five rooms, and you can be a sponsor of one of those rooms. There are elements within those rooms that can also be sponsored, all at various price points. And those contributions are, directly assisting us in building this garden. So waterfrontgardens.org is our website. There are a lot of ways you can click our support tab and seek out an opportunity to be a part of the project, really from the ground up, because we are still in our infancy.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, there's just so many things out there that people want to get involved with but don't know how. And I think this is a good starting point for other community outreach programs, arboretums, or other things trying to get involved. There's multiple places starting to pop their heads up, and some in the South Georgia and things as well that I've heard about that are trying to become more in the public eye, which can be difficult too, because as we talked about earlier, how do we make ourselves known to be more than what we are in this day and age of social media? It'd be very hard to kind of break through that wall. What's been the biggest thing that you guys have seen in regards of like, you're on public social media, you do these things marketing wise, and then, is there any training programs you have for the bonsai garden, or anything for people to come learn bonsai techniques or anything?
Well, so we currently are hosting and teaching a class of about 30 different participants. We're going to be we've had 3 classes so far, but we are going to be working on maintaining the garden's trees, just performing normal maintenance techniques, as well as all the horticultural background that's necessary to help maintain these trees. So certain members of the class are going to be having certain duties. Some members are more advanced, or we'll unleash them on wiring or helping out in general. But we're really looking for docents that will be able to talk about the trees over the on the weekends, and then also just perform various work tasks, repotting, foliage thinning, bud removal, deadheading, those types of things. More so than any major restyling or reconstruction of the trees. But So that's a 2-year program. We're meeting once a month. And we had, like I said, there was a cap at 30, but there's 31 people in the class, and then a couple of the garden staff are taking the class as well. So we're pretty full. And I've been chosen to kind of take on that lead, teach most of these people. And sometimes I'll bring in other senior members of the Greater Louisville Club to assist with different techniques, wiring, preparing their containers for repot,
Hmm.
all those types of things. So sifting soil, preparing soil. So so
That
that's
sounds,
oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, I was gonna say that sounds great. Yeah, congrats. That's a lot of work. I will say I'm from Oregon originally, and being a part of the Bonsai Society of Portland, there was a program started by a woman named Eileen Knox. And I know she's in Tennessee, but her influence has sparked a lot of different clubs where she creates a mentorship program.
For
And the
sure.
Bonsai Society of Portland did that, and it's now 101, 102, and I think a 103 open studio thing for more expansiveness with the artistic outreach. It sounds like you guys are going that way, which is really cool. And we've been trying to implement that in Columbus and things in that way. And thank you for doing that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rearrangement as far as the board members with the Greater Louisville Bonsai Society over the last 5 years. So the club kind of died out back in 2020. And then I didn't want to see it falter. So kind of picked it back up. I've been at the helm trying to get everything going, functioning like a great club. As far as BSOP status, we're quite a ways
Right, right. Most people, yeah.
from that membership. But we had in 2020 we had about 12 active members, and now last year we had 78.
Wow.
So
That's
That's a
great.
really
Wow.
fast rebound.
That's amazing.
yeah, we're
That's impressive.
I've got a lot of great supporting board members.
Mm.
Uh, fellow student of mine, my vice president, his name is Jim Keith. But he's a great educator. So having people like that on our team, people that are knowledgeable with current bonsai techniques, and that have
Right.
actually been longtime bonsai practitioners. We've really been able to increase the quality of trees in our area, as well as increase our educational capabilities.
So I
It's
wanted
amazing.
to, yeah, it is very amazing. I wanted to ask a follow-up on the 2-year bonsai training program. So is that specifically designed to get this group of 30 people like competent in bonsai that they can volunteer on the collection that you all have there at the Waterfront Botanical Garden? Or is it just like anybody can take this class who's interested in the club?
So yes, our focus and a requirement for the class is contribution of at least, I'm not sure of the requirements to join the class, but we made them pay a nominal fee, but they all got tools from Japan, trees and pots. But they paid a nominal fee for that. And then they're also going to be required to perform, at least 10 to 20 hours a year of maintenance on the collection.
Okay. It sounds like a pretty cool arrangement. And I've been doing a lot of workshops in the last year, so I know how difficult it must have been to get 30 people to come and commit once a month. Sounds like it plays together, though, well with having the bonsai collection there and the botanical garden kind of supporting the endeavor.
Well, right. So I tried to make it as easy as possible. I've got children and other things going on. So we tried to set it, the second Tuesday of every month.
Hmm.
And, just so happened that, we had a later spring this year. So a little bit later repotting session. And when you plan 6 months ahead, you don't really know what the trees are going to be doing at that time. So, we had a meeting one week, and it was a classroom style meeting. And then we had an open forum where everybody came. We didn't go back to the classroom. We went to the workshop. And I invited all the students to come, anytime between 2 and 6 o'clock, as we were going to be repotting trees. And we had over 13 people show up for that. So there's additional opportunities besides just the class. But there is quite a bit of interest in learning more about how to grow.
We definitely were intentional about trying to promote the program, at least gathering interest at last year's Bonsai weekend. So we knew we've got this kind of group here. They're a captive audience, if you will, of folks that at least have shown some level of interest in bonsai. So we put up QR codes all over the place, basically saying we're going to start this training program. If you're interested and would like to be on our email when the time comes to launch this, sign up here. And we were really shocked at the response, honestly. And then to have, I think we went from 50 or so responses, which was a lot, down to even 30 of them continuing through and, paying that nominal fee for their supplies and the time and energy going into it. We're thrilled, to put it mildly.
Right. When we saw the initial number of 50 come in, I was, very excited. But as most things with bonsai, they sometimes can fizzle out over time. Then when I got the final count, it was 26, and then at the first class, we had 31. So I don't know about you guys, but teaching a bonsai class like that's pretty difficult.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
And is it
Yeah.
just you and your vice president teaching those, or like how do you think about the instructors for
Well,
that?
so the first couple classes, I just went over tools, soil, general bonsai mechanics, horticulture, stuff like that. And then the other meetings we've had, I did have at least two. I had one of the students is actually more advanced, so he was running a soil sifting station. My treasurer was helping out everybody prepare their containers for repotting. And then Vice President Jim was kind of going over. We've gotten some those like wooden trees for wire training.
Okay.
So he just kind of went over a few of the steps with that, just for like an initial intro. Yeah, we definitely had to break out into groups of 10. Simply because the hands-on, lots of questions, but also being in smaller groups, people ask more questions. So I like that as well. But, I definitely anticipate, even though when we developed the program, I uh, I didn't know that it was going to be as what it is today. So I definitely am having, when we do azaleas, there's an azalea gentleman out of Berea Bonsai Studio. His name's Tim Weckman. But, he knows a whole lot more about azaleas than I do. I'm more of a pine conifer tropical guy. So I'm going to have him come in and he'll be, teaching, or we'll be co-teaching azalea, shoot selection and bud removal. So, I definitely anticipate having lots of help for the remainder of the classes.
Nice. So do you have the agenda for all 2 years picked out, like you said, 6 months in advance, or are you just kind of, as you go, trying to add on to that plan that you've developed so far?
Right. So actually, I do have somewhat decent 2-year layout, just as far as what's seasonally appropriate to work on at that time. I kind of follow a combined schedule of what I learned out west, what I learned in Tennessee, and then what I've learned at home, and just figured out great work schedules for what time of year it is, and trying to plug in those to coincide with what I'm currently doing at my nursery.
Sounds like a good strategy.
Hey, Russ,
It's easy strategy. Yes, ma'am.
do you ever plan on doing like a club show there?
What do you mean?
So like bonsai clubs usually like get their members to show their own trees, their
Right.
own work. Maybe sometimes they allow people to do it at different levels. Are you guys planning on something like that?
Right. So the only show that we have currently is at the Waterfront Botanical Gardens, and it's just an annual show. That is kind of a higher level show. We're more selective to the trees that we are allowing in. The thought of a second show is a good possibility, just for, trees that are in training or some of our newer members. But, currently we're trying to keep the trees as high level as possible. We want to, create something that is worth the trip for you guys. But, we are looking into a potential secondary show. But that's just something we haven't had the capacity to put together yet.
Yeah, we ran into things like that in Columbus, in relation to people wanted to show their tree, but maybe they weren't as show ready, like we were discussing, to put it politically correct. Um,
I think every club has had this discussion at some point.
right. Well, I conjured up a way to kind of incorporate everybody was to have a section of bonsai behind the scenes where it shows the trees in training at the actual show, but just in a different application or a different area or within a walking point because they can see these trees in training and then they see the actual show trees and people are more invested in the time spent because they took time to look at every tree initially after walking through the seed stage all the way to like a 5-year sapling of a juniper or something or pine. I don't know if that's something you guys have ever done, but that worked out really well for us in relation to getting more people to want to come back and seeing more fruits of their labor, so to speak, and all inclusionary. But yeah, no, it sounds like you guys got a good thing going too, though.
Yeah, so I mean, initially, the amount of space that's available at the garden is it's growing. Like Megan, said, there's about 5 acres that's been completed. So all of the events, all of the partners that we're working with, Japan Society of Kentucky, Japan America Society of Kentucky, the U of L chapter, the Japanese Club,
Nice.
the Asia Institute, Crane House. So they all have events and things that are coinciding with Bonsai Weekend. So we're pretty packed here on site, with the food trucks, the beverage tent, as well as the children's area. So
Okay, understood.
until we get more plaza space, we're kind of limited to, those types of things. But as far as, yes, showing trees in development, not near the quote unquote show area, yes, that's definitely already been discussed. And,
Oh, good.
hopefully will be implemented, in due time. So, like we said, 2 years ago was our first show. We didn't even know how it was going to turn our first weekend. We didn't know how it was going to turn out. And then with great success last year as well, we think that it's going to be very popular for years to come. So we're trying to make it into more of a Japanese festival, bonsai centric, obviously. But it just kind of I think we're developing at a very quick but very organic pace, and just taking it step by step.
Yeah, and
Hey,
to
can
that
you?
point,
Oh,
we're definitely filling our footprint here. And our new addition for the show this year, which I'm pretty excited about, we're gonna have some koi fish in tanks up on the plaza with the Louisville Koi Club. So that'll be something new and different. We'll have 3 of these big tanks. I don't remember the dimensions offhand, but they're large, filled with water, and 2 to 3 koi fish in each one. So yeah, we're like maxing out the footprint of what we have created here on site so far.
that's quick, and that's a wonderful organic process, or you can even say horticulturally crafted,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
relation to the show. I always like to say that's well horticulturally crafted, like a cup of coffee. Um, Yeah, I have a question just real quick about public collections. As you know, I just graduated from the Ohio State University and I had put forth an idea to start a public collection at the Ohio State Arboretum, the Chadwick Arboretum, and in creating an endowment, you know, within your garden and things in that way that we're talking about today, where did this idea start? And how have you got to the point now where you're able to fund all these projects? Like, if people want to create a public garden, which I feel like we need more of, not to bias, of course, but more public gardens equal more plant people and more plant appreciators. How do you have any tips or tricks or ideas about how people can get started and then get to the point where you guys are at now?
Russ is over here, saying that this is you. This is you. Oh man.
Kevin question. It's a Kevin question.
That is
deep
a
in, yeah,
phenomenal question with so many different answers that
right.
meander off in many different directions. But this is something that requires a team effort. It cannot be done alone. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. You need to seek out the experts in the field and get them to join your team. And once you join together, you map out what's your roadmap for success. What does this look like? What is the environment in which you're trying to create this endeavor? Is there something like it in the area? Is there not something like it in the area? If there is it the right choice, or should you, try and support that organization so that you're not competing against each other? There are a lot of different ways to get started, but not the least of which is having really significant funding, because none of this is inexpensive at all. And I will say very candidly that a lot of our success has been through the generosity of individuals who have left money as a bequest after they have passed away. Legacy giving is a really powerful way of supporting a future project, because it does not impact your current financial comfort or your current financial situation, but it can have a immense impact on success after you are no longer here. It is a way of leaving your legacy behind. And our large spaces here at the gardens are all thanks to those individuals that really honored us with leaving these gifts behind after they were no longer here. So, I have to give a lot of acknowledgement to those individuals. Helen Harrigan being one that left the original bequest to build a botanical garden and conservatory in Louisville. L&T Leslie was another. We have our entire classroom building is named for L&T Leslie, and the Grazer family. They're the matriarch of the Grazer family. We are incredibly grateful to them, and that family is still incredibly involved now. And the building that Russ and I are sitting in right now is the Grazer Family Education Center. So it takes a lot of investment and resources, but getting the people on your team that are passionate about it and have expertise in all the areas in which you do not have expertise, form that team and divide and conquer and work together.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's always a effort in trying and asking, right?
Yes, always, always.
Congratulations on answering Kevin's question.
Sorry.
I even made Ryan laugh.
It's a great question. I hope I did.
No, it helped a lot. It
It's very
reinforced a lot of
insightful.
points.
Yeah, we don't often see the behind the scenes, so we like to capture many angles.
Yes.
We'll be right back. This episode is sponsored by the Waterfront Botanical Garden's 3rd annual Bonsai Weekend in Louisville, Kentucky. Details at bonsaiweekend.com. Come visit Kentucky's newest botanic garden and see what's growing with the Greater Louisville Bonsai Society. The show will feature guest judge Owen Wright, bonsai workshops, demonstrations, cultural activities, food and drink, koi fish on display from the Louisville Koi Society, and an expanded selection of vendors for all your bonsai needs. I'll be there too, and I hope to see you there on May 30th to June 1st. Tickets are now on sale at bonsaiweekend.com. Now back to the show.
I do have a question, because I don't know too much about bonsai in Kentucky. What's a common tree there, or a local tree there, that's used for bonsai?
We pretty much grow most temperate species. I can really probably name more things that we can't grow. But we can pretty much everything. We get summer hot and we get winter cold. So not a lot of olives or coast live oaks or those types of trees, but more so tons of pines and junipers. We've got the native Virginia pine as well as the eastern red cedar, which are native and they flourish here in our landscapes. So, shimpakus work well. So, itoigawas, it's a little bit wet for them, but we still try to grow those. But yeah, it's heavily, my particular collection is heavily coniferous, probably like 60% conifers, 20% tropicals, and 20% deciduous. Simply because we get so hot in the summer, I'm not around the nursery all the time to, hit them potentially 2 to 3 times a day. So, the gardens collection is mostly azaleas, pines, and junipers, and then there's a couple deciduous and tropical. So,
Okay.
we can grow pretty much everything, but it's usually hot or cold, or tolerant, that is.
Yeah, I kind of used a chat GPT to look at what the common trees are in Kentucky. So like white oak, red maple, sugar maple, American beech, tulip poplar, black walnut, hickory, sycamore, eastern red cedar, Virginia pine, and eastern hemlock. So none of those I think can grow where I live. But I went to the garden in North Carolina, I think it is, and they had a section of, traditional Japanese trees and a section of like the native trees that they put together as bonsai. So that was pretty cool to look at. I don't know if that's what you guys have in your area or your garden.
Oh, I know what tree you're talking about or what planting
Garden.
you're talking about. Yeah, Arthur did a great job putting that thing together. But we don't have, per se, a representative piece of the native plants in our range. Um, I am not a huge fan of what we have to collect here immediately locally in Louisville. We got to drive down to southeastern Kentucky. Down by Red River Gorge. Uh, there's a number of different collectibles down there. More so on the pines, hemlocks, and potentially, rocky outcroppings to collect some junipers. Um, but yeah, so as far as like our native, immediately what we have going on, right around here in Louisville, we're the bluegrass state. So we've got big horse fields, filled with grass, and then on the fence line, um, hackberries and other random, not so bonsaiable materials. But I've got a few red maples, a few native hornbeams in the collection. Um, but bald cypress will grow well here. They're more naturalized now than we're a little bit north of their native range. But they're perfectly fine here as long as you get them from up here and not from Louisiana or Florida.
Right. Yeah.
They don't overwinter well. But the azaleas, we don't have many natives, but like I said, we've got quite a few in our collection. And that's since it comprises, I think we've got 15 or 16 of those. But since it takes up most of the collection, we did make an alternate overwintering structure just to make sure that that's okay. But everything else we have is fully hardy, outdoors. So we heal everything in. Um, but just for our collection in particular, we are focused on higher quality trees, not necessarily if they're regionally or nationally native.
Mm.
Hmm.
I did have one or two more questions for you, Russ. Um, how did you start listening to our podcast? Is it like, do weirdos attract weirdos, or how does that work?
Yeah, pretty much. If you listen to Bonsai podcasts, there's not many of them. So after you've listened to all the episodes, like I said, I'm a plant healthcare professional, and I do a lot of specialty pruning on landscape plants. So I'm listening to podcasts instead of music a lot of time. So I just like to kind of see what's out there, what's going on. That's kind of how I got turned on to you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It always surprises us the fact that people listen. Like Kevin was at this convention over the last weekend and he said, someone called you famous. And we are like, what? But now Russ and Megan and the Waterfront Botanical Garden will be bonsai famous also. So
That sounds great.
yeah.
Bonsai fame with
We have another question.
all of the famous people. Yeah. All 1,000 people will know about us.
Exactly. Well,
But I have to say, it might be a really niche interest. But I think that there is, I will say niche in terms of those that really start practicing the art of bonsai and being hands-on. But I think there's a lot wider interest in bonsai in general than we recognize. As an example, so last year's bonsai weekend, my husband came and some of his colleagues came, and they're walking around and they know nothing at all. I mean, they're here because I work here, and they said, "Oh, we should go and visit this event that's happening." And one of his employees came to him afterward, and he was like, "Can we get a bonsai tree for the office? Can we we use the company card to go buy one of Russ's trees because Russ was vending? Can we buy one of these, and can the company help to maintain it? Can they provide the funding?" And I thought that was really interesting. They want instead of a mascot, they wanted to have their own bonsai tree that they all kind of communally cared for. I didn't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I also said, I think you should learn a little bit more before you acquire one of these trees, because it's not exactly going to be, a pothos that you've got sitting in a dark room that just continues to grow with no love whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but they were intrigued, they were fascinated by it, and this was really their first introduction, and they wanted to buy a tree like immediately. So I think that there is interest out there, even if you are not. I am interested in it. Do I have a bonsai tree? Absolutely not. Would I do well caring
What?
for one? I don't think so. But I think they're fascinating, and I love to learn about them.
There's always ficus. There's always ficus.
But Megan gets to come to work every day and see the collection. So she has trees here.
True.
She doesn't have to worry about. She can just come and admire them.
I can just come look at them, and somebody else will take care of them. That's how it should go.
And
good
you'll inadvertently educate yourself seasonally.
Right.
Right.
And I want to say congratulations and thank you on educating them about not just going and splurging on a tree to just buy one to have one, as opposed to do the initial care first of understanding why and how, and then go for it. Because that would be a very upsetting thing for them. They paid off of it and it's still a tax write-off maybe, but either way, it's like, oh, our plant is dead. Well,
Yes.
what did we do wrong?
Right. And
So thank you.
loving it, of course, with
Right.
good intentions. I would love for them to buy a tree for Russ, but also I would really hate for it to meet its demise shortly thereafter.
I'll take a class with Russ and then get a tree.
Right.
Take that 2-year class and then you're ready.
Well, no, at my nursery, I predominantly offer classes. Some people call and they say, "Oh, I want to buy a couple bonsai," and I'm just like, "All right, well, let's come in for a class. We set up the tree. Do whatever seasonally appropriate work to be done, and then send them on their way as far as growing the tree." Which is quite different than somebody thinking that they're going to go to your house or go to your nursery and buy, a couple $100 tree for 30 to 40 bucks, or
Right.
that has no idea the amount of work and time that has gone into that. So, But yeah, so that's, we're a huge proponent of education, and that's kind of like why I got involved with the gardens too, because nobody else around here is educating the public about bonsai.
Mm,
And not everybody can come to a class at my nursery, so being becoming involved in the community and sharing my knowledge, which I've learned throughout the years, it's been rewarding for me just to do that, because I do accept a very small stipend for the work that I do at the gardens, but 90% of it's
Hmm.
still volunteer. So,
That's great.
right.
I was gonna say something that you could all do in place of people wanting to buy trees. I said, get a T-shirt. I said, I went to the bonsai weekend and all I got was this T-shirt.
That's a great idea. We have actually thrown around some merch ideas. Do we do a commemorative T-shirt that we update every year? Do we do a poster we update every year? We did a poster last year, and it might have just been the placement of where it was amongst other Waterfront Botanical Gardens merchandise. I think it was kind of hidden, but we do like the idea of something commemorative. I am a big fan of something that adds a bit of humor. That flavor
Hmm.
is fun.
Or all I got was a sticker or pin or something,
Yeah. No, I kind of like that actually. I would happily buy one for my husband's coworker, gift it to him and say, I know this is not what you came for, but here, this is a gift from me.
That'll be a conversation starter for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
one idea that's not really merch is a postcard. Maybe I have to turn off my green screen for a second. It could be merch, but we use it kind of as an advertising postcard. Let's see. Okay, if I unblur the background. Yeah, so I actually got this idea when I was at the Seattle Club, and I think it was back when Tony Ferrahio was the president. He's now owning a bonsai nursery out there. But they do an annual postcard to advertise for the show,
Uh-huh.
and then they update the picture. And at the time that I was there, I was helping make the postcard, I think. So I chose the picture to be the tree that won the previous year.
That's a
And
great
then
idea.
I brought that over when we've been here in Columbus. And I'm kind of the guy going around taking photos every year. So I send those photos off to, now I have some other club members that help make them. So I send my photos off to them. But we just leave those postcards around the city, and then other people take them and hopefully spread the word that way. And I tend to save one postcard from every year. So that's like my personal merch for CBS.
I love that idea. That's great, actually. Thanks for the tip.
Mhm.
Please spread the wealth.
Yeah. I did have one other question about your bonsai weekend. So Russ, you mentioned that you were doing, like, you went to a lot of bigger shows, the PBE, the Artisans Cup, the National Show, and that you were taking ideas from there to implement at Bonsai Weekend. So what sort of ideas have you adapted for your local club show to elevate it?
Well, I was gonna wait and let everybody see.
Oh, okay. Well, you can talk about past years
So
if you want to save some,
the main thing is we changed the layout. We're not going to be able to do anything like Artisans Cup and have our own individual displays, but we have modified our display component to potentially provide a better perspective on the plants. But we've that that's really some things are still in the mix. We might, still work on that, but I'd rather let you guys either be here or find out through social media what we're doing. But one thing that we are developing currently is befriend a tree program. Where we can have general public adopt a tree, for a year, and we use all the proceeds for that go to new pots, new tables for display, as well as any stock that isn't already been donated by club members.
it's a good idea. One idea that I'll give to you for free. I've always had this idea to
Only
have,
one.
yeah. Well, I've been sitting on this idea, but I don't have the time or effort or energy, I guess, or good space for display to do this. But I wanted to have a tree and just like have a continuous stream, like live stream of the tree in the garden. And then maybe at the end of the year, you can make that into a time lapse and show like, okay, at this time of year, it was growing and then it got pruned back, or then the leaves changed colors, something like that. And you could maybe put some music on the stream. Maybe people just come and look at the tree every now and then. It'll be like a technological nightmare to set up, but if
Right, I was
anybody's
gonna say
very
that,
daring, go for it.
that sounds like a great idea. If you have potential ways to implement that, we could probably discuss that.
That'll
Right
cost. I'm
now,
kidding.
right now, my time constraints won't allow anything like that. I don't really post a whole lot on social media just because I don't like the pictures that I take. But so as far as me posting a time lapse of many pictures would probably be even more anxiety driven.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can brainstorm on that in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Or anybody listening, go for it. I have not had time to pursue that. So,
Ryan forgets that he's in a PhD program sometimes, and then reality sets in pretty quick.
yeah, it's frustrating to have ideas that you don't have time for. So, someone else, please implement.
You just got to graduate, then you have the world as your oyster.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's a good thing that there is no shortage of ideas. There's just the shortage of time to implement them.
Mhm.
So one step at a time, just bite off as much as you can chew and baby steps.
Yep.
Eventually you get to fulfill some of the things you thought about. And then maybe in the interim, you come up with some other greater idea that you think is worth more of your time and energy. But we are always busy here, always. We are a small but mighty team. And that is a mantra that we routinely pass around is there's no shortage of ideas. It is just what can we actually accomplish in the time that we have, and spending our time, in ways that are going to make the biggest impact. But we've got a long list of ideas if we ever have the time to implement all of them.
That's the good thing about having volunteers at your garden. Then, every volunteer can make a little difference, free up some time, implement some new program, something like that.
We are so indebted to our volunteers. We have about 300 active volunteers, and
Wow.
they do an enormous amount of work in support of the gardens. Everything from, your administrative volunteer type activities to helping out with the field trip that was here today to they act as our on-site docents. So when someone visits the gardens, who do they meet first? It's one of the volunteers. It's not a staff member. So yeah, we would not be where we are without our volunteers.
And then I had one other question, kind of in a different direction. So we've been talking about your bonsai weekend. That's going to be May 30th to June 1st, if we didn't say the date specifically, of this year, 2025. Is there anything else that people, if they're coming to visit the garden during that time or just in general, is there anything else in Louisville area that they should make sure or maybe may want to see while they're there?
Gosh, Louisville is a really fantastic city for activities. It is a great city for food. If you are a food person, you like to try different cuisine, we have a little bit of everything here. Obviously, Kentucky being a horse racing place, we've got Churchill Downs, so you can visit the track, go to Churchill Downs. We are the home of Muhammad Ali, so you can go to the Muhammad Ali Center. You can go see.
I did not know that.
Yes, Muhammad Ali grew up, born and raised here, trained here. He is a Louisvillian. He is buried at Cave Hill Cemetery, which is about a mile from my home. So yeah, we have really strong history with Muhammad Ali. We have the Louisville Slugger Museum, so Slugger baseball bats, fantastic. We have the Speed Art Museum, the Fraser History Museum. So all of these are on what we call Museum Row. So you can go and spend some time in downtown Louisville. But in addition to those elements, we also have obviously the Bourbon Trail. Now there is the Bourbon Trail that takes you out into the state of Kentucky, and you can, drive a couple hours. You can drive, I think probably the closest one that's on the The full Bourbon Trail is maybe 30, 45 minutes away. But we also have the urban Bourbon Trail. So you can stay right here in Louisville and you can bebop from one urban bourbon distillery to the next. And that is a great time. And actually last year, as it relates to gardens, the Oldham County is our neighboring county, their tourism bureau, in partnership with the Louisville Tourism and the state of Kentucky Tourism, launched the Kentucky Garden and Arboretum Trail. And that is modeled after the Bourbon Trail. So you get a paper passport when you show up to one of the participating gardens or arboretums. And for each garden or arboretum that you visit, you get a stamp. And each stamp is unique to that garden or arboretum. So we are a part of the Kentucky Garden Arboretum Trail. So that's kind of a fun thing for nature enthusiasts as well. And I mentioned earlier, we've got a great park system, the Olmsted Parks. So go visit Cherokee Park, Seneca Park. There's a lot of really beautiful green spaces to enjoy. And Kentucky, you venture a little bit farther outside of Louisville and you've got really great hiking. Russ mentioned Red River Gorge. It's a really popular place for hiking and rock climbing. And we have a ton of caves in Kentucky. We actually have caverns here in Louisville. They're called the Louisville Underground Caverns, and you can zip line in these underground caverns. So there's a lot happening here. Even though, yes, we're Louisville, Kentucky, maybe we don't get a lot of attention, but there's plenty to do. Make a weekend of it, a week for that matter.
Yeah, sounds like a busy place. And you're not far from the Mammoth National Park. Is that right?
Yeah, Mammoth Caves. Yes, that's, I don't know, is it an hour and a half?
Yeah,
2
it's about an
hours?
hour and a half, hour
Mhm.
45 from Louisville.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was my first time stopping over in Louisville was when I went to visit there.
Yeah, that's a good time. I haven't been back in a couple of years. Need to return because it's a good spot. And now that I've, got kids.
Well,
need to take them.
just briefly too, Megan mentioned Cave Hill Cemetery. It's a National Arboretum cemetery. We've got one of the oldest ginkgo trees in the United States. It's got a 24 foot circumference. It's massive, but there's lots of very old species of trees, magnolias that are 80 to 100 foot tall, deciduous magnolias, not like southern mag. So truly unique set of tree species. There's over I think 150 different genus in the arboretum. So not only is it a beautiful cemetery, but they've got some amazing trees as well. Lots of good fertilizer.
Yeah, I'll have to stop and see some of these places when I come visit.
There you go. Yeah, for sure.
Just got that. All
All right.
So that's the secret for the 23-foot wide ginkgo.
Right. Well, the legend is that it came across and was planted with the Lewis and Clark expedition. So,
Wow.
yeah, that's just lore. But there's also the witch tree that we have down downtown. It's right by Central Park. We have spirit guided tours in downtown for haunted old Louisville. But yeah, they're just another cool tree to check out. It's a mulberry with lots of burls. Nothing supernatural about it in my arborist opinion. But it's a highly cherished tree in town. In addition to the ginkgo, like I said. I'm not sure if it's the biggest in the States, but it's the biggest one I've ever seen. So
Sounds like a scene from Poltergeist.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that Megan and Russ, that you wish that we had asked or that you want to share about your upcoming Bonsai weekend, your upcoming events at the garden?
I will just do a quick recap. Bonsai weekend, May 30th through June 2nd. This year, 2025, Waterfront Botanical Gardens in Louisville, Kentucky. It is free for kids 16 and under. We do want this to be very family friendly. We're encouraging folks to come out and bring the whole family. You get your tickets in advance. They're $12 at the door, $15. We have our special guest judge, Owen Rich, will be here for the weekend. He will be leading some workshops and demonstrations. There's People's Choice Award, Club Choice Award. Owen will be going through and judging the trees as well. We'll have lots of different cultural partners here. As Russ mentioned earlier, it's a bit of a Japanese festival in partnership with the Bonsai show. Looking forward to having koi fish and the U of L Japan Club and the Japan American Society of Kentucky here. Food and beverage. We've got it all. It'll be great. Bonsaiweekend.com is where you can go and learn more about the event, get your tickets, check out pictures from last year. And we're just really, really excited about it. We're hoping it'll be bigger and better than ever, and we'll continue to grow on this special event. And I will also plug the dates that we chose. This is the weekend after Memorial Day. We are planning to keep those dates annually. So in 2026, it'll be the weekend after Memorial Day. So bear that in
Great.
mind, 2026.
Nice. Kevin, you look like you had something to say?
I just want to say thank you for your time. It's been a great chat. I learned so much about public collections and a breakdown of how to start one. So thank you.
Well, I really appreciate you all very much inviting us on and letting us talk about all the things. I told Russ earlier today, I was at a Kiwanis Club presentation talking about the garden. So this is fun because it gets a little bit more specific on our particular event in bonsai, but living and breathing Waterfront Botanical Gardens right now.
Well, thanks again, Megan and Russ, Waterfront Botanical Garden, and Twisted Nature. The Bonsai Time podcast has been produced by Kevin Ferris, Ryan Houston, and Kelly Louie. Find more information, relevant pictures, and links for each episode in the episode description and in our show notes at www.bonsaitimepodcast.com. To support us in creating more episodes, please remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. To go the extra mile, reach out if you'd like to consider sponsoring an episode. To submit questions for future Bonsai Brainstorm episodes or any other suggestions or feedback, reach out to us on social media, through our website, or at bonsaitimepodcast@gmail.com. We are Bonsai Time Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all podcast apps, and at Bonsai Time Pod on TikTok. Lastly, find your host at the links in the description or on Instagram at Kevin_Ferris Bonsai, Bonsai with Kelly, and Ryan is at InVivo Bonsai everywhere or www.invivobonsai.com. Thanks for listening.